Hello and welcome to Don't Bury the Lead. We recap WWE SmackDown every Friday night, but this is a special episode where we're talking about the second night of WrestleMania. Dom, go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
John, I was looking forward to WrestleMania, and I was also looking forward to talking about it with you. So we managed to get a good Saturday recap in right after night one,
Mhm.
and after night two, we went very short video about Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. We'll revisit that a little bit and the rest of the show. I'm looking forward to this. John, like we say here, don't bury the lead. What's our top story from the Sunday portion of WrestleMania 39?
Dom, we don't ever want to bury the lead. We don't want to bury that lead. And let me tell you something. Roman Reigns goes over Cody Rhodes in what I would call a pretty shocking win for
Okay.
Roman Reigns over Cody Rhodes. All kinds of hoopla in a main event at the end, which is something you kind of hope not to see, but there was all sorts of interference, and then they're
Mm-hmm.
stopping the interference. But overall, a good match, and Roman Reigns retains the WWE title and his streak, which is somewhere in the mid 900s now.
9:45 as of Sunday's win. If he makes it to May 27th, it's 1,000.
And this is the deep dive here, Dom. So, you
Mm-hmm.
know, what did you think about the match, the main
The
event?
match went 35 minutes, so it was a good main event match. Um, at one point, I wrote, and I wrote this for a lot of the WrestleMania things. I'm going to be the curmudgeon who just looks at all these modern matches and says the same doggone ornery thing every time. I write every now and then in each of these matches, getting spot festy.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's getting spot festy in there. So we had some spot festiness in here, but for the most part, this was a really good. It was a good Can Cody do it? Can Cody do it? And there's some controversy that we've seen in just the day or two since the WrestleMania that people are either really disappointed in Cody or they're like relieved that Roman retained. And I think part of the reason was there was this inevitability about Cody Rhodes taking the title from Roman Reigns in this match. And the way it was wrestled, they didn't really tip their hand. Like, oh, Cody's definitely going over. Oh, no way, Roman's going to retain this. So at the end, there was going to be enough of a surprise either way, I think. Um, as it turns up, as it turns out, there is, like you said, interference all over the place. Um, Solo Sikoa is at ringside with Paul Heyman throughout the match. He gets thrown out from ringside. And that's usually a good indication. Oh, we're going to see a one on one match. This is something. But then you're thinking in the back of your mind, okay, we haven't seen the Usos come out on Sunday yet. They're
Right.
still there, probably. And sure enough, the Usos hit the ring eventually. But then Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens come out. And these are the shenanigans you're talking about at the end. And, I didn't care for that part of the match just because, my goodness, this is every Roman Reigns match. He's becoming Austin Theory. He can't win a clean match on his own.
Especially because he's been the champ for 945 days. Did you say 900 and what?
9:45 as of Sunday of WrestleMania.
Yeah. So he's been pretty dominant. I don't think he should be shown as like the chicken shit heel, but
He's bigger too. He's
yeah,
bigger than Cody Rhodes.
yeah.
He
Um,
should be able to get a win at one point without the run-ins, but Like you were just about to say, did the shenanigans that you brought up early, and it looks like we're revisiting now, did those take away from the rest of the match, or did you want to see that part of the storyline brought into it?
It was at least cool in regards to the fact that they did the swerve. Like,
Okay.
usually they don't do the main event of WrestleMania swerve where you expect Cody Rhodes to win and then they take it away.
Hmm.
I've, and I said this in the other video and I'll just repeat it. I really liked a lot of the stuff Roman Reigns has done, and I've only been watching WWE for about 6 months. So I'm like, oh, don't take it off him. He's red hot. And, a lot of people that have been watching for years now, they're thinking it's stale, but I think it's still hot to me. I think it's a great angle, and the bloodline's the best thing they have. Just keep it on them, and I have no problem with it. I did notice a couple of things about the match I liked a lot.
Sure.
When the two competitors went out, the crowd was really into it. Like before they even locked up, and they milked it, and they did the slow thing.
Hmm.
And usually, when you have these main events in WrestleMania, the night is so long. There was two really strange matches before with Finn Balor and Edge and Shane McMahon blowing his quad out. That was what led up to this. And what seemed like an endless stream of commercials and advertisements. So for the crowd to still be into it, it tells you a lot about how well the story's been written out and
Hmm.
how, you know, how big Roman Reigns has been with the title. Um,
He gets a pop at the end.
yeah,
Not as big a pop as Cody was getting during the match, but when Roman wins, I wrote down pretty good pop for Roman winning. Fans seem to appreciate a good match. And Sunday night we talked about maybe it's just that fans just like a winner. But I think there are some Roman Reigns fans in that live crowd. And I also think there were some people who in the live crowd, they weren't just, oh, Cody's got to win at this point. They weren't trying to fantasy book it. I think people after 35 minutes just appreciated the match and took it for what it was. I mean, that's what happened to me watching on TV. I don't want to put myself too much in the minds of the people of other people, but the impression I got was that people weren't booing because Roman Reigns won. There wasn't people throwing trash in the ring. This wasn't Hogan forming the NWO with Hall and Nash. There were people who genuinely appreciated this main event and cheered for Roman.
there was a chicken in the ring at the end. Did you see that? Somebody threw
No,
a huge dummy, like a dummy chicken at Cody, and like Cody Rhodes is laying there, and they try to get the dramatic shot, and there's a chicken, just like it's like a doll chicken.
really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll have to show it to you after the show. So there was something thrown in the ring, but I kind of I get what you're saying. Um, Ultimately, it was a good enough match where the crowd was popping because they were happy for just the outcome of the match, and it was a good match and a good build for it and everything. And hell of a job to get through that entire weekend and that show at Sunday night and be interested. Because I
Mhm.
mean, I feel like the fans have to be so tired by that point. Night two, this long show, but
Night two's a little shorter than night one, thankfully. It was 6 matches instead of 7. Um, it ended about 11:35 rather than closer to midnight. But still, I mean, they had more than 80,000 people live in the arena each night. They announced total attendance up over 161,000,
mhm.
close to 162,000. So they had a good crowd. Um, Cody Rhodes, should he have won this?
Well, if we're talking fantasy booking, I have been a big fan of Roman and what he's done so much that I was just like, you know what? Keep it on Roman. He's done a good job with the title. The longer he has it, the more captivating it is when he drops it. And we haven't seen anything
Mhm.
like this in modern wrestling. Usually it's hot potato fest where they throw the belt back and forth to try to get some momentum going, but they already had the momentum. The
Mhm.
second that Cody gets the belt around his waist, it's going to be like, it's going to die down, you know? So I'm happy that we can watch SmackDown and it's going to be more impactful.
what you just said. The second Cody gets the belt around his waist, it's less impactful. If he had won at WrestleMania, yes,
Mm.
because his story to this point, his journey was vignettes.
Yes.
Like I think they're setting it up now to make Cody a stronger challenger down the road because he had to have that first confrontation with Roman, fend off the entire bloodline, and he basically just lost the numbers game. And now it sets him up to be a better character and a stronger real opponent down the road. I don't think this is going to sound mean, but I don't think a returning mid Carter, which is what Cody Rhodes is in the WWE, should show up and a year later, including after having a serious injury, which keeps him out of action for months, waltz through as the 30th entrant in the Royal Rumble and be able to just march up and take the belt off of a generationally historic champion. I don't think if that would have happened, that would have been good storytelling because everybody else has had to really fight and claw to get to Roman, but not Cody.
Right.
Sami Zayn has a long-standing story. So does even in a sense Kevin Owens. I mean, but Cody's story to get to Roman was more like Logan Paul's from Crown Jewel.
Right.
And we've already discussed Logan Paul on the last the recap of Saturday,
and everybody loves him. I might be the only. Speaking of curmudgeon, I might be the only curmudgeon that's like, I'm sick of this guy already.
Right?
I'm already over it.
And in a way, we're not sick of Cody though. Like him losing here makes him more interesting.
Yeah. What about the match overall? I'm trying to think of some spots, and I can't even really think of anything that sticks out too much.
Let's go through the finish. The two guys are after all the interference. Let's go through that. Cody goes for crossroads, but Jay and Jimmy run out. Super kicks 1D, and this is after a ref bump. That's how they're able to do this. There's the Roman Reigns title match ref bump, which allows it to break down. So now Jimmy and Jay run out, super kicks 1D, but here comes Sami and Kevin Owens. They come through the crowd, fight off the Usos, stunner on Roman, haluva kick on Roman. The tag teams then fight each other out through the crowd. So now it looks like it's back to a one-on-one match. Cody drapes his arm over Roman and gets a 2.5 as the ref just gets to his senses and counts there. And now exhausted, Roman and Cody start fighting from their knees. And we've seen this a few times where guys just start slugging it out on their knees. And eventually they make their way to their feet. And Cody sidesteps a Superman punch, then he gets into Dusty mode. Now it's Dusty Rhodes. He starts with the jabs. And then he does the twirl and he hits a bionic elbow. So if there's old-time pro wrestling fans in there who are watching this, that's a neat spot that Cody goes for the bionic elbow. He goes for crossroads, hits it, then a second crossroads, and hits it. But he gets a little greedy. He tries to set up a third crossroads, but Paul Heyman distracts the ref. And here comes someone dressed all in black from the crowd. It's Solo Sikoa, who was thrown out 15 minutes earlier. He grabs Cody, hits the Samoan spike. Now Cody's wobbling and staggering out of the corner. Roman runs the ropes twice and drills him with a spear. And that's the pinfall. So the closing sequence there, that last 7 minutes there from the ref bump, those are some high spots.
Oh, yeah.
Was there anything before there that you wanted that you really liked or disliked? I already mentioned that, before that I had to write down at one point, getting spot festy.
Doing the bionic elbow was so good. And I know it's kind of predictable that he's going to do it, but the crowd went crazy for that. And it's nice and simple. It's
nostalgia, right?
Yeah. I mean, this quite nostalgia. I mean, Dusty wrestled in the 80s. So people I guess they know that spot, though. It's pretty famous, the bionic elbow.
70s, 80s. He was in the WWE for a while and may have done it for a while. But I mean, Cody's whole story building to Roman was nostalgia.
That's
So
true.
yeah, to throw that little nostalgia bit in there, that Cody's going to go for his father's, big spot move, the bionic elbow.
Yeah.
Were there other things though, like besides that nostalgia spot that you liked?
I like the figure four. It's kind of like toward the middle of the match.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what about the figure four. If you could have got get Roman a tap out, that would be really cool. Rather than him just losing and getting pinned, just the tap out and having him quit.
Mm-hmm.
The crowd goes crazy. Whenever somebody's in a submission, they're like, tap, tap, tap. Yes. Like, and they never want to make anybody look weak enough where they're actually tapping out. So they always find a way out of it. So
they do, and this figure four especially was interesting. Cody's got that figure four on it. He's got it on for a while, and Roman starts to struggle and turn and turn and turn, and finally he flips it over. And the wrestling kayfabe is that if you turn over a figure four, now you've reversed the pressure. I cannot confirm or deny this, but now Cody.
I still don't know how that works, but yeah.
Right? Now Cody's the one struggling, and now Cody's struggling to get to the rings, and Cody wants to make the ref break the hold, and they do. And then they're both down there. Too many kickouts, too many covers. It's a 35-minute match, so they needed to have some pinfall attempts. There were some early. Cody goes for an early drop kick. Roman kicks out almost immediately, just to show, like, no, it's going to take a lot more than that. Roman power bombs Cody. Cody kicks out at about 1.5, so even before 2. So like they're trying to set it up that no, you guys are going to have to really work a lot harder than this.
Yeah.
To win this match, and they sort of play that up. I'm going to tell you one thing I did not like about just the matchup overall. Guys get into those punching slugfests once in a while where it's one guy lands a right hand, another guy lands a right hand. Roman considerably outweighs Cody Rhodes. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's got the reach, he's got the leverage. There is no way Cody Rhodes should be able to stand in there and trade blows with Roman Reigns.
And it's like a punch in the face, which is usually really impactful. Like if
Right.
you're like, and you hit somebody square on, like usually that's pretty bad. That you should not like a back and forth usually, but that's one of those. The crowd loves it. Suspend the disbelief, I guess, but
the crowd loves it. But I mean, I wish pro wrestling in general, creative, would come up with something different to do when you've got a small, because you want to make the baby face eventually stand up to the guy.
Yeah.
But if it's a smaller baby face, there's got to be something other than just trading right hands.
Now, I've seen that spot at some indie shows when they try it. And when it doesn't go over, when they're not doing the boo, yeah, you hear like one of the wrestlers that's in on it doing the boo, yeah, and the rest of the crowd's just sitting there. That's a sight to behold. When they're trying to do this spot and the crowd isn't into it, then it looks ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So
crowd is into this. We sort of like the match. Cody from here looks like he has some potential. Like this may be better for his character long term, that they didn't go this way too easy and not properly built title switch. Like for all the things that Roman has been involved in, for him to lose the match the first time he faces a returning mid-carder.
Yeah.
I think that would have been a problem. We got a comment on our Sunday night video from a YouTube commenter whose handle is the GOAT. And, he liked the fact that, you had mentioned that your 2 words reaction to the match were shock and joy, that you enjoyed the match. And we'll link to that in our description of this video once we're done with the live stream. But he liked that. He said he'd been a Roman fan since the Shield. And, he seemed in his second comment to be not as impressed with the fact that they were just kind of handing this to Cody. And I wonder if you've been a longtime WWE fan, with all of the wrestlers they have on the roster, to have Cody waltz in like this. I mean, I can't speak to this directly. I just thought it was a little awkward just having watched for 6 months. I wonder if there were genuinely more longtime WWE fans, and those are probably the ones who are shelling out a bunch of money to be in attendance at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I wonder if there were more of those fans who sort of felt the same way, and that's why Roman gets a pretty good pop when he wins. Like they realize this is probably better.
Right. That could be part of it. I mean, there's all kinds of theories as to why they did it. The other thing that could have easily been the lead tonight is Endeavor buys the WWE, or now they own 51% of it, or whatever that could be. So,
Merger. Company
yes,
merged into a new company. Yeah. They're going
so
to be trading under a
potentially
different sticker. Yep.
they're like, hey, maybe don't pop the belt off their big champ, their big star yet, while their acquisition's happening. Just keep it on him, and whenever it's necessary, we could pop it to Cody. They can give it to Sammy. Sammy's quite the wild card because I think he's more over than Cody right now, and
I
I
think
think
so.
and and that's not a shot at Cody. That's just because nobody's as over as him as a face right now in pro wrestling.
No, Sammy hits the haluva kick on Roman during the ref bump period here, and the crowd is just all over it.
They went nuts.
The
Yeah.
crowd is all over there. Yeah. So, yeah, and Endeavor does buy the WWE, and I wonder how much that plays into WrestleMania, which was already booked. Or how much I wonder how much any of the wrestlers and talent knew. Triple H apparently did address it on the day after it, Monday Night Raw. Well, with the crowd, I don't know what they said behind the scenes, but yeah, that's an interesting point. That is Roman having the belt better for the company as a business, at least at the moment, and I don't know how to answer that. That's a good question to ponder though. Like how much of the recent business side of WWE affected some of the on-screen in-ring product? That's a good question, and maybe something for us to keep our eye on the next few SmackDowns, the next few weeks, months, maybe.
Yeah. And I guess, we'll transition out of the main event here. Anything else you wanted to talk about there?
Not in this main event because the story is already flying past WrestleMania. What did you think was the next biggest story coming out of, or maybe just your second favorite match from this night? I mean, I have mine in mind.
I have mine too. You can go. You can go.
All right. And talking about the crowd, and it may even tie in a little with this main event match, but I was pleasantly surprised by and just elated by the crowd response to Gunther versus Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus. The crowd appreciated these big guys working a stiff match.
There.
They were into this match like crazy. And I was concerned going in because triple threats can get messy,
Yeah.
especially when you've got a guy who, if there's anyone on your roster who does not need to be in a gimmick match, it's Gunther. Like Gunther did not need a gimmick to hide anything of his weaknesses. He doesn't seem to have any in the ring. But what a cool match this turned into, and what a cool crowd reaction to this match. Gunther wins. By the way, just for the fact that I did write getting spot festy in this match towards the end when like everybody was kicking each other. It was
Yeah.
Claymore, it was Brogue, it was Claymore, it was Brogue, blah, 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 blah. But
Sometimes they do that with the triple threats because you get a little. So they have like a spot in the match toward the end where they can do like a back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Triple threats are hard. They're really tough.
And with this one, it looked like they were setting up Drew and Sheamus to be just battling it out. And then, Sheamus hits finally the final brogue kick and covers Drew. But Gunther, who'd been on the outside, goes up to the top rope and splashes both men to break up the pinfall. just a crazy, like, we don't think of Gunther as a high flyer, but this guy really can do everything in the ring. Like, what a splash to break up the pin. Then he power bombs Sheamus onto Drew as Drew's trying to like crawl to his knees. He power bombs Sheamus onto Drew's back. And
Yeah.
then he power bombs Drew and pins Drew McIntyre. And the crowd pops. Like, they had already been hot for the way this match had been so stiff. The chops, the punches, the kicks. These were big, strong men laying into each other and trying to make it look like a fight. But at the end, they even took it up a notch. The crowd seemed to appreciate this. And so Gunther retains 296-day reign for him as of Sunday, April 2nd.
And this was a
And
swerve too for me because I had really thought, hey, Gunther's going to go over, or excuse me, Drew or Sheamus is going to take the Intercontinental title, and then he's going to chase Cody for the belt because Cody will then have the championship, and we're going to go on to this new storyline. No, I was completely off because not only did Cody not win the big belt, Gunther retained the Intercontinental title, which I was happy to see.
well, let's put two and two together. Was Gunther retaining and looking so strong doing it your clue
Yeah, right.
that maybe Cody's not winning? Because you gave this analysis, and I think it was really good in the weeks leading up to this, that if Cody's going to win this, they need to have big heels ready to chase him, and Gunther seemed like an obvious one.
Mm-hmm.
And would the triple threat match at WrestleMania be the way to keep Gunther looking incredibly strong by not losing to somebody in order to drop the belt? He drops the belt without getting pinned or submitted. And the
Yeah.
triple threat match would be the way to do that. And so, you're thinking, okay, and I think I mentioned this in our preview, like, this would be the saving grace to the triple threat match, is if that was their plan all along, was to make Gunther look strong without, get the belt off of him without him having to look weak at all. And instead, they keep the belt on him, and it makes you think, maybe they don't need to have a ready-made monster heel to chase Cody.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So I like this match, and I'm so thrilled that not only did it come off as well as it did, but I'm thrilled that the live crowd was into it. I thought that added something to the match as well.
it gives him some credit, Gunther, like for a lot of his work. It's funny, like we started watching SmackDown in September, and the people that we know have been good have shined. Like Ricochet shined on night one.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday night, Gunther was a guy who has been fantastic. And then he gets in the WrestleMania match, and it's like, yeah, he's just doing the thing he's been doing all year long on SmackDown. So,
but he's been doing more. We mentioned in our grading video at the end of 2022 that Gunther had kind of been hiding behind the rest of Imperium, especially Kaiser, as far as being his mouthpiece, as far as the guy who would talk him into matches and set up his storylines. They've really been letting Gunther take the mic and show his character development. I think he's done everything you could ask of a pro wrestler at that superstar elite level.
yeah.
At this point, like, his first 3 months of 2023 have been everything that you and I talked about him needing to do to hit that elite status. I think he's there. And we also mentioned, selfishly, do you want to see Gunther keep the belt so we keep watching him defend it on TV? Because that IC belt is really the working man's championship, and it gets defended on TV a lot. So,
Yeah,
I guess selfishly, we got to be happy, right?
With Drew McIntyre and Sheamus having the IC title and having them wrestle matches, it's not going to be the same. So selfishly, good, and a good match overall. Man, oh man, those chops, right? Like when he lays them in, Sheamus, his chest is red after 2, maybe 3 chops into it.
Yep.
He's just, and they're like, get a close up of him. Like, you could see it. You don't need a close up. It's immediately red. He's destroying his chest. And one spot I wanted to talk about, there was a high spot kind of in the middle of the match where there was almost a dive on the outside.
Okay.
When this happened, I was like, that's how you do the freaking dive. He's like, you don't do it right away. You're doing all this in-ring stiff wrestling, and then you transition to the dive. And
Okay.
I was like, this is perfect. And I forget who it was specifically, but I remember thinking, okay, this is a totally acceptable dive because we're not going right to the dive 2.5 minutes into the match, or we're not doing a zillion dives. We're just doing one, and it's later in the match when things have been kind of slower and stiffer.
Yeah, Sheamus hit a brogue kick on Gunther and had the pinfall, and Drew, who was outside, pulls Sheamus off of him to break the pin. And then Sheamus and Drew were brawling on the outside, and this had been such a great stretch in the match, and you're getting "This is awesome" chants
Yeah,
from the crowd. Um, as Drew and Sheamus now get back in the ring. Sheamus gets sent to the outside, and that's when Drew does the somersault dive that you're talking about. Like there was real heat, and it, like you said, it had been building all match, and it added to it. And then this sets up a Claymore kick back in the ring, but Sheamus instead hits the brogue for the 2 count. And it was right after that that I wrote getting a little spot fisty because we got big kick, pinfall, dive, big kick, another big kick, pinfall, and it's like it got a little spot festy there. But right before that, when they hit the dive, yeah, that was probably the high point of the match until the finish. And like it was everything was done, I think, correctly there, and it was really good. Um, so nothing bad to say about this match. Um, even though I was wondering if there would be something wrong with it. I appreciated the guys involved in it. I was just wondering if the gimmick of the match would take away from it, but I don't think it did. I think these guys worked. This is as good a triple threat match as I've ever seen.
yeah. No, it was great, and it could have easily been considered the match of the night. Maybe because of the implications of Cody versus Roman, you just by default it was a good enough match. But if you didn't know what was going on and you didn't have any storylines, this was definitely the best in-ring match of the night.
Yeah. Now, anything else on this one, or do you want to get to something else either you were looking forward to or something else you were not appreciative of?
My favorite match of the night,
Okay.
without question, Snoop Dogg pins The Miz in maybe the worst segment I've ever seen. Of, I mean, one of the worst segments. This is like just like the McAfee
Yes.
Miz thing, but there's a horrible injury in the middle of it.
Was
And
Shane legitimately hurt, or did they do that on purpose so Snoop could come in? I don't
um,
know what's at work anymore.
I don't know. No, it was all effed up. It
Okay.
so it was so hilarious. So I guess this segment was ridiculous. And Shane McMahon's supposed to come down, beat up the Miz, pin him after some back and forth between Snoop Dogg and the Miz. Shane comes down and he starts going in. He starts doing the Shane punches, and he's blown up, and he's looking all juiced up. Like he used to be kind of like a doughier, like not like a very fit guy, like a big guy, but not like super fit. And he's looking crazy juiced in there now.
Mm-hmm.
And he does the Irish whip, drop down, and he goes to do the jump up. And when he jumps
leapfrog.
up, the leapfrog, and just the second he lands, he tries to get back up, and he just collapses to the mat. And
Yes.
he lay there like he was dead. It was but it's apparently a quad injury, just like his old man blew out his
Okay.
quads years ago.
Yeah.
In
Okay.
but
Well, serves him right for doing an Irish whip, a drop down, and a leapfrog. Do a real wrestling move. Come on.
Patooey. But great improvisation by Snoop Dogg, who went in, punched Miz, and then punched him again, and then just elbowed him and pinned him. Knew enough to let's get this segment done.
The people's elbow.
Yeah, and pin somebody and then move on. To say that this guy's never really been involved too much with pro wrestling, and he's just, a complete. I mean, he's a major celebrity. We
Mhm.
we touched on that on Saturday, but
Sure.
for him to kind of improvise and at least get this ended without just Shane in the stretcher, he did a pretty good job. Other things that were hilarious about this segment, Shane gets hurt, and they just zoom in on the Miz's face, and he's
Yeah.
just sitting there, and he's so confused. And I'm like, no, this isn't the time to do like. Let's get his facial expression as he's trying to like talk to the ref. Like, what do I do? Like,
Yeah.
what do we do now? Like, Shane is very injured, so hilarious segment. Really not a great look for Shane in WrestleMania. Maybe he's gonna come back at some point and redeem himself.
Sure. Now that he's back on TV, I mean, he's back part of the, I guess, in the good graces of the company from a business standpoint.
Yeah,
So
and sometimes, usually, when stuff like that happens, the rule of thumb is just kind of work through the injury and get to the finish. But it was so bad that he just rolled out, and that was
sure.
that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And he's not in the prime of his physical condition anyway. And someone who knows how to do that. It's not like he rolled an ankle a little bit.
no, no,
Yeah. So
it appears to be either a very severe quad or knee injury. What did you
uh,
think about this segment, Dom?
I was not pleased that they did something like this on Saturday. And when it looked like they were doing it again on Sunday, I thought, okay, this is our punishment for not having a Bray Wyatt disaster at WrestleMania.
why, why would they do this weird bathroom break, Matt? I guess it's just, I don't know. They paid Snoop Dogg a lot of money, and they needed to get their money's worth out of him. So they're like, throw him in another segment.
I mean, I think part of it is to give the fans in the live audience a breather if there's just been a great match, because we can get to this next. There was a tremendous match before this nonsense with The Miz and Shane McMahon and Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, I think we've done enough on this segment. We trashed it enough, and there was nothing good about it. And one man leaves horribly injured. So
Right?
nobody wins. This could have
Yeah.
just been another Cinnamon Toast Crunch advertisement or whatever was
Sure.
advertised.
I would have taken that.
I would have taken. I might have preferred an advertisement over this. So
Right. Another ad featuring Jimmy and Jay Uso hawking pizza or phones or whatever it is they do. They're so photogenic. I would have taken another Jimmy and Jay commercial over this, yes.
so you're
But
talking
I would
about,
not have taken another Jimmy and Jay commercial or any kind of commercial over the Raw Women's Championship match.
right?
Uh, Bianca Belair retains against Asuka. Wow. I liked it. I liked it. And we got when we did our
Take it
previews.
away, Dom. Maybe you could talk about this one. Give me 1 sec here. Just keep
Sure.
touch on this one.
Yeah, when we did our previews, we got a wonderful comment from someone who goes by the handle of Teacher Talking Sports, who said, "I think Belair versus Asuka has the potential to top the list of matches at WrestleMania," and it's tough to argue against what you saw in the ring here. Um, Bianca Belair wins in a wonderful contrast of styles match. Um, Bianca is a fast, quick wrestler, as is Asuka. But whereas Bianca goes for high impact moves, slams, throws, and ultimately setting up pinfalls, Asuka is more of the martial arts and submission wrestler. And what a fast paced, hard hitting match between the two of them. And you could see each one trying to dictate to the other what style of match it would be. You know, Bianca, even early on, we see, Asuka going for submissions, Bianca going for a roll up to break the hold. You know, Asuka's going for arm bars, and Bianca, instead of just trying to squirm out of it, tries to roll her up into a pin. Uh, you know, so you're seeing Bianca try and assert her style onto Asuka, and Asuka continually trying to assert her style onto Bianca. It's like a great football game where you're watching a great offense against a great defense, and you're wondering, you know, is the great offense going to be able to assert its will on the great defense, or is the great defense going to be able to assert its will on the great offense? And I just love all of this. Eventually, the finish is Bianca sort of ducks the green mist or blue mist that Asuka is spitting out there. She gets Asuka into the fireman's carrier for the KOD, but Asuka squirms out of it and gets Bianca in an armbar, and the crowd pops.
Yeah.
Bianca's the baby face going into this, but it was such a great sequence, and the crowd pops for Asuka getting the armbar on. Now Bianca fights and rolls through, and then stands up while still holding Asuka. So it's like Asuka won't relinquish the hold, and that winds up costing her because Bianca just sort of stands up with her and turns her into the fireman's carry and delivers that KOD. Gets the pinfall. Very fast-paced 16 minutes. So this was less than half the duration of the main event. 16 minutes, but so fast-paced, so much action. I think you could make the argument that this was the most impressive match in the ring. Yeah, obviously it didn't have the size of the competitors of the IC triple threat, and it wasn't getting, you know, stiff chops like, you know, a 280-pound Drew punching a 260-pound Gunther or Sheamus. But what a fantastic fast-paced match. The timing was excellent. The contrast of styles worked. Um, the crowd was into it. And the fact that they were willing to at times cheer for Asuka because they just appreciated so much what was going on in the ring. Uh,
Yeah.
what a great match. I enjoyed the heck out of this one.
From my perspective, and I'll just be very transparent, and I should not have used this, but you know, I kind of had a bathroom break during this match. I took a break from the show knowing that we had the main still up, we had the cage match. So I kind of zoned out during this match. And I think I'm going to have to go back and rewatch it because I've heard really good stuff about it. And there was some stuff in the background. I'm like, oh, this is a good one. You know, maybe I should have taken a break during the Hell in the Cell instead. But I just saw there was so much on the horizon, including the main, that I was just like, let me take a breather here. But you summed it up great.
16-minute match. It wasn't a terribly long match.
Yeah.
You know, by pay-per-view standards, but worthy of a world title.
And you know what? And just from what I saw, I love the entrance with Bianca, and I don't really care for the long, crazy entrances. But in WrestleMania, I did like it. I did like all the girls swinging the hair and doing their like dance routine, and then she came out. I thought that was like, this is a pretty cool entrance.
Do you know where the EST, her catchphrase, where it comes from? I had to look this up.
No, what is it?
She was doing a promo in NXT when she was coming up through development, and she was reading her script, and she was supposed to say that she was the strongest, the fastest, the prettiest, so it was the superlative, and she was supposed to say that she's the est of NXT, but as she's reading the teleprompter, she just reads, "I'm the EST." But it's one of those happy accidents that winds up being brilliant.
Yeah.
Because that's perfect. I'm the EST, the EST of NXT, or I'm the EST of WWE. That's so much cooler than saying I'm the est.
I'm the est.
I'm the EST. I'm the strongest, the prettiest, the fastest, the roughest. That she was the superlative, the EST, the strong est.
Oh God.
The pretty est. But she misread it. Because it doesn't it? What a happy accident. So the EST, I'm down with the EST as a catchphrase and as a way to do things there. I for someone who hasn't seen much of Bianca, impressed by her, impressed by Asuka too. I mean, I would not mind seeing either of these competitors more often during SmackDown, but it is the Raw Women's Championship, so it's going to be very rare that I do. But what a performance!
Very,
What a performance!
three-letter names in pro wrestling for sure have been pretty effective. Like Randy Orton's finisher, the RKO.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got DDP, Diamond Dallas Page.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got the current champ of AEW is MJF.
MJF.
So yeah, EST. Just any sort of three letters that sound catchy together. A lot better than the est. I'm the est.
Yeah,
That's bad.
that was going to be a cringy promo if you were going to say I'm the est of NXT.
I'm the best, or I'm the EST.
That sounds better.
Sounds so much better.
Right? That sounds better. The EST. So the EST retains, and great match. Now you mentioned you took the bathroom break here because there was the main event coming up and Hell in the Cell. I'm going to make an admission here too. Hell in the Cell starts. It's Edge versus Finn Balor, the Demon Finn Balor. And as they're making their entrances, I'm writing, okay, Balor's face and body paint looks cool. And then my next note I wrote was weapons within first couple of minutes. I might be done. End this. And at that point, I kept one eye on it and was just doing other stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know much of what happened. And I know the finish. Eventually, Edge gets the pin with a concerto, which is what Judgment Day with Finn Balor had done to Beth Phoenix at Extreme Rules to get Edge to quit in the I Quit match. So I get that there's some, poetic symmetry there. But I mean, the rest of the match, these guys reaching for kendo sticks and cage and chairs immediately. I was like, I'm done. I'm done. Go ahead, have your low rent copy of an ECW match. I'll go do something else.
I'll tell you what. They had the kendo sticks, but they were painted different colors. I'm like, why is the kendo stick painted? And then there was other things that happened. I mean, specifically, they were kind of in a flow. They were going pretty. It was pretty long to go so hard so early.
Okay.
There's a couple things. So Mick Foley and Mankind. I mean, he's a legend. He's the guy. He's great, and I loved him growing up. He's kind of ruined this Hell in the Cell match. It's like, oh, when does somebody get thrown off the top of the cell?
Right.
You're kind of looking for that. Outside of that, they used it as passive, like as safely as possible, just taking the guys and throwing them up against Cage, which was cool. I don't think you can go too wrong with the Hell in the Cell, but I think you'd almost be better without the Hell in the Cell and just the regular cage where they can climb up and get out and do stuff from the top.
Okay.
Like a proper cage match. Like you have to climb out and get out so that you can. I've seen like Owen Hart and Bret Hart did a really good job with it. Surprise, Bret Hart did a really good job with the match, but Owen and Bret did a really good job with a regular cage match. The thing that really screwed it up was the injury midway through, where Balor took the ladder to the face. Do you see that portion at all?
No, I did not see that. And Balor had so much face paint on that I probably wouldn't have noticed anyway. What happened?
He got this is went back-to-back injuries. So we went Shane injury. Balor took Edge through the ladder at Balor, and one of the rungs of the ladder just caught him flush right on the nose. And he dropped, and there's just blood everywhere. So there's blood everywhere. They delay the match. The refs come in. They do a screen. They put a shot onto the Edge, and he's just like, he's confused and talking to the refs. I'm like, no, don't shoot it on him. So then they kind of like pan around the arena for like a couple minutes while they make sure Balor's okay. And then he's okay, and then they get back to it. But after that, it really lost its momentum where it was headed. Okay. And I was like, what, do they just go home right away? But they kept going, which probably drugged the match on a little longer than it should have. Okay. But yeah, so
props to Finn Balor though, if he really had a broken nose.
And he got destroyed. They kept showing the replay over and over. I'm like, yeah, I get it. So like just the rung, the middle, one of the like foot I guess where you put your foot on a ladder or whatever that is, maybe a rung.
Sure, yeah.
But that just smashed him in the face.
Well,
So
then kudos to him and to Edge for being able to finish the match with the guy who has an injury and not make it worse. And I can see what you're saying that don't put the camera on Edge, but I think the WWE is still squeamish about showing blood on TV, even if
yeah,
it is a premium live event pay-per-view like WrestleMania. They're a little bit standoffish that, so they don't want to show the close-up on Finn getting worked on in that situation. But yeah, I mean, pick something else to do with the camera, or at least tell Edge not to look like you're so confused.
don't look like you're just standing there. Yeah.
Like,
So then the disbelief is pretty much gone, but it's already kind of a stretch because they're
okay,
already in a hell in the cell. But then they have to open the cell, then they bring in the medical personnel, then they close the cell. I'm like, wait a second,
wait, yeah,
this isn't that terrifying of a structure. We could just go through the front door.
yeah, right.
So I'd have to say it was it's an okay match. I didn't really have we really didn't have that too high on our list anyway. I wasn't really looking forward to it. So
No,
cool.
no. We
Working
got two matches left, I think. What do you like that deserves? What of the remaining two matches would you like to talk about? It was the
the Amos versus
Brock.
Lesnar was probably Brock Lesnar was probably better than the cage match, and
Okay,
only because it was just slow. It was quick and easy. I mean, this must have
right.
been 6.5, 7 minutes. Amos does some stuff, and you're like, there's zero shot Amos is going over Lesnar. Lesnar does, his moves. He just starts doing the suplexes to him.
Yeah.
Amos he's not been particularly impressive. He looks a little lost in there.
But this is his kind of match, right? It's just another big guy and it's power moves.
Yeah.
I thought Omos looked surprisingly quick early on, as well as powerful. Maybe Brock is just the guy to do that with.
Yeah, he might have overperformed from what he's done in the past.
Sure.
But and he's so huge. I mean, he's got that luxury where even if he's crap in the ring, he's so freakishly tall. You're like, yeah, he could be a pro wrestler. He doesn't have to do much.
And maybe you don't get to see the guy at his best when they're putting him in like 2-on-1 squash matches against guys who are like, maybe 200 pounds each. Yeah. Like, what are you supposed to show there? Mm-hmm. Like, but in a match with Brock, he's Omos is picking up Brock and tossing him around the ring. It
was a good opener, especially because
body slams Brock. That's impressive. That's more impressive than body slamming a jobber they brought in from the Indies for a handicap match to do a squash. Like, I thought Omos gets a chance to show more of what he can do because he's in there with Brock Lesnar. And yes, you're right. Brock winds up hitting the F5 there. Brock sells his ribs too and his back being hurt because Omos had got him into a couple of bear hugs there. And Brock's doing a good job of selling the back injury. Like, Brock's going for the German suplexes, but then Brock is slow to get up and do the next one. Like, he's doing a good job of ring psychology and match psychology. Eventually tries to get Omos up for the F5 and he can't do it. He's selling the back. But then eventually when he does get him up for the F5, the crowd loves it. He gets the pinfall.
Yeah.
And you're right. They didn't stretch this out. You don't need 20 minutes of reversals with Brock and Omos. Just let Omos throw Brock around the ring. Oh my goodness, he's throwing Brock around like he's a midget.
It ain't Flair Steamboat.
No, it doesn't have to be.
Plastic. We're like, okay, this is the opener. This is two huge dudes. They're gonna just do their. Vince is probably loving it, right. And it's not Bray Wyatt. So
and it's fun. It was a fun match. Brock gets a good win. Mm-hmm. And then they set up for the 4-team fatal 4-way team match for the women. Now the men's match we liked on Saturday, not only because of the action in the ring, but because it's important to show that there is a tag team division. They had to do that with this match as well. Were they successful in showing us that there is actually a women's tag team division that exists in the WWE?
This match was not.
Say it, John. Say it. It's a yes/no question. Say it.
No.
No.
No, this match
Don't bury the lead, John. No.
fine. We'll do the cornet thing. What the fuck? Right? Whatever he says. What the hell? Yeah, we'll do the cornet thing and we'll bury them. It was not good. It looked like crap on paper. It was crap in real life. It didn't have much of any sort of a build at all.
No.
Did Ronda Rousey go over? Is that what happened?
Ronda and Shayna get the win.
No.
Craziness all over the place. Shayna tags herself in as Liv is trying to pin Shotzi. And then basically she tagged herself in on Liv Morgan and then threw Liv out of the way. And then as she was doing that, Ronda also tagged herself in on Shayna. So Shayna kicks Liv out of the ring so that Ronda can come in as the new legal wrestler and apply the armbar to Shotzi for the win. This is Ronda's only in-ring action. The crowd boos her like crazy. And I wrote down, I don't know if this is good heel heat or go home heat. And to your point about the not having a build, the men's showcase tag team match featured 4 tag teams. Like Braun Strowman and Ricochet, they were thrown together as 2 single wrestlers, but they've been doing it for months now, and they really click as a tag team. The Street Profits are a tag team. They wrestle as tag teams a lot together. If Montez Ford is in a tag team match, it's with Angelo Dawkins and vice versa. They're a tag team. They have a name, the Street Profits. Chad Gable and Otis, Alpha Academy, same thing. They are a tag team. They weren't just thrown together for this match. The Viking Raiders, tag team. If Ivar's in a tag team match, it's with Eric as his partner, and vice versa. They are a tag team. Natalya and Shotzi are not a tag team. Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green are not a tag team. Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan might be a tag team if they get more work under their belts. But for now, they're not a tag team. So this was a tag team match featuring not tag teams. That doesn't cast your tag team division in a good light.
Yeah, it's so crazy because I'm trying to think of it, and I don't really remember the match, and I was just like, yeah, this is no good. And I just deleted it out of my brain. And it's been 2-3 days, so it's not like that. It's been that long. So
right, there were lots of dives onto the floor. Raquel Rodriguez obviously looked like the power wrestler. People like you were saying, everybody got their stuff in. Now, unfortunately for Ronda getting her stuff in means that she gets tagged in just to apply an armbar to a wrestler who's already defeated.
Wow.
And the crowd boos like crazy. And I want to think that it's go home heat. Like the crowd is just like, if you were trying to tell us that the women's tag team division actually exists and this is how you book it, then no, your women's tag team division does not exist.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. It was kind of like maybe reminds you a little bit of old Divas stuff when they would just have these random matches on WrestleMania in the late 90s and early aughts when the women were just like models. They didn't really know what they were doing, and they just gonna have it. But yeah, this one kind of looked like it was going to be a nightmare, and then it was. And then you're just like, I had such low expectations. I wasn't like disappointed. I was just like, yep, this is no good.
And they got it out of the way fairly quickly. They move into that for Bobby Lashley coming out with his trophy. So they, even though this was not part of the WrestleMania 2-night thing, the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, Bobby Lashley wins, gets to come out and give his little just triumphant appearance with the trophy, which, I mean, it had to be better than any match he would have had with Bray Wyatt. So good for him.
The segment was him coming out and he's like, I did it. And then he left.
And then he left. The Hall of Fame class appears a little later in the match and in the program. So that was the other non-wrestling thing.
I like that actually.
Right, me too. Rey Mysterio was there, obviously, but Stacy Keibler's there as well. They inducted one of the referees, Tim White. Good for some refs getting some love there. The Great Muta gets inducted. who
Crazy.
I like just because I from non WWE stuff in the '90s. The Great Muta, fantastic, and Andy Kaufman. It's been a long time coming, but if you're going to have a celebrity go in, how about a celebrity who really appreciated professional wrestling and got in the ring a little bit himself? Andy Kaufman. Do you remember um, at all Andy Kaufman's whole intergender wrestling championship gimmick, and even his fantastic feud with Jerry Lawler? That's really, this was the first thing in the 70s and 80s and kind of the revival of wrestling where wrestling spilled over into pop culture. This was pre Cyndi Lauper and Captain Lou Albano and the rock and wrestling thing that the WWE did with Hulk Hogan in the mid 80s. Like Andy Kaufman was really the guy who tried to go pop culture with pro wrestling.
He was so believable. I mean,
Yeah.
his promos were
Yes.
amazing, especially for the time. I
Mhm.
mean, they're almost like timeless.
Yes.
So his like little single, not promos necessarily in front of other people, but his little vignettes when he's
Mhm.
like talking about women and like this is a mop, and then talking about
Yes.
people in the South, and he's like, this is a bar of soap. You use it
Yes.
here, you use it here, and he's like explaining them how to clean themselves and like stuff like that. Was just like, wow, that's really mean and hilarious.
It's
So
absolutely classic. He and Jerry Lawler go on Letterman at some point after Lawler had pile drived Andy Kaufman and um I don't know if that was early on, but at some point they're on Letterman and they're having this thing and Kaufman starts getting under Lawler's skin, and Lawler stands up and finally just clocks him. And they do this thing where Andy Kaufman comes back out in a neck brace saying he's going to sue everybody. I'm going to sue you, and he's furious. And you look at Letterman and maybe even the crowd's reaction, and they don't know what's going on. They don't know if this is a work or in our terminology now, they don't know if it's a work or a shoot.
yeah, it was likened to like the Will Smith Chris Rock slap where it's so awkward and it felt really real and you're like, what's going on? Like,
Yes.
and everybody is just like confused. It was
Oh, but
exact.
this was better.
I was, yeah, this
in,
is
in,
much
in fact, not only was it better, but when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock and all this stuff was going on social media, I said, my reaction to it was, folks, Andy Kaufman and Jerry Lawler already did this 40 years ago and they did it better.
They did it better. They did it
Go
way.
watch it. Go watch it. And eventually, Andy Kaufman, he's having a feud with somebody else, and I forget, but he needs a tag team partner, and he convinces Jerry Lawler. He pleads with him, please be my tag team partner. And Lawler says, all right, I'll do it, because Andy Kaufman was getting bullied relentlessly. And so Lawler tags with him, and in the match, Andy Kaufman turns on Jerry Lawler, and everybody just like starts getting beaten up on Lawler. And it was just a wonderful year-long program. And it encompassed so many good things about promos and in-ring work and psychology and building a storyline and building a match and bringing it in culture promotion. You wonder what these guys would have been able to do in the age of social media.
Yeah.
Like Andy Kaufman was so good at this stuff.
One of the things is too, the way Kaufman was building himself up was he was beating up on women, which is
Yes.
just like such a disgraceful thing to do, which makes you dislike him more. But then he's going over still because he's beating the women up.
Yes.
So he's going out there, and instead of wrestling jobbers and trying to appear strong, he's just pounding on women. So
Yes. The intergender championship, that was his belt.
yeah. So all kind of really great stuff, especially for a celebrity to come in and do it. Maybe there is an aspect too of in that era that people didn't know what was a work and a shoot, really didn't know. We're
Yes.
all pretty much worked over it. So that late night show incident really felt real. And there was such a realism to it. And kudos to Lawler when he slapped him and he starts
Yes.
pointing and screaming. Like, I mean, he's been pro wrestling for years at that point, so he knew the drill. but it was
Yeah.
very convincing and like, oh yeah,
Yes.
he really wants to get his hands on this guy, huh?
Oh, Lawler was gold too. I mean, nobody becomes a star in pro wrestling on their own. You need somebody to work with, and Lawler was fantastic. Lawler was the perfect foil for Andy Kaufman.
Yeah.
Not that Lawler was the heel at all, but yeah, perfect. But
Well,
I mean, that's my rundown of WrestleMania night two. Do you have anything else to add there, or should we go into a little sort of reviewing ourselves on this?
well, I'll tell you what. Want to give a shout out to Blue Francis, who's asking us to talk a little bit about Andy Kaufman, and I think it's a good idea. So,
Sure,
um,
sure.
I
Thank you,
think,
Blue.
yeah, thanks, Blue. And I see a short video about Andy Kaufman in the future, so it's a good idea. So thanks for that, Blue.
Yeah, so we've had a few shout outs to people who've been responding to our videos and our
The
content.
Goat, who has a great
Recap
name,
here.
Teacher Talking Sport, has been commenting a lot, and I follow his stuff, and it's really good. So if you are in or around YouTube, Teacher Talking Sports has some pretty good short clips, really unique stuff. And then Blue Francis, who is just a person we know in real life.
Blue,
So,
yeah. Well, Blue's all over YouTube as well, and the goat
and the
was
goat.
was somebody who was all in on Roman Reigns apparently, and he said he'd been a fan of him since the Shield. So this is somebody who stuck with the Roman story through everything. Because you brought up how you've kind of soured at some points on Roman Reigns over the years, and some of his gimmicks didn't always work. But he eventually found something that did work with this bloodline thing.
Yeah.
So, for longtime Roman Reigns fans, I guess this is, if you've really been a longtime Roman Reigns fan who's watched him really try to navigate his own career with the crowd and what's over and what's not over and how do I negotiate being in the spotlight. Maybe this is really satisfying to see Roman Reigns have an historic title reign and still keep the belt in WrestleMania. Like not have WrestleMania be so formulaic and cookie cutter and predictable. And maybe this is a cool thing.
Dom, let me speak my piece here.
Yes, absolutely, champ.
I think maybe you should start off here and let us know, what if you go down your list and let us know if they met the expectations, if you're happy with it overall.
Absolutely.
Maybe you could take the first one.
Sure. My list was the match I most wanted to see was the Usos versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens for the unified WWE tag team titles. The second match I was second most looking forward to was Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Those two matches, I think, delivered. Third for me was Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes, then the Intercontinental Triple Threat match, and then Bianca Belair versus Asuka. And I have to say, I was very satisfied with how WrestleMania worked. I would not have changed a thing on my list. The matches I want to see were my favorite matches from WrestleMania, combining both nights. The tag team match and the SmackDown Women's Championship, with both of those were title changes, by the way. Sammy and Kevin Owens winning and Rhea Ripley beating Charlotte Flair. Those were, I thought, the two best matches of WrestleMania. And when I was going into it, those were really 1 and 1A for me. And those were clearly on a level by themselves above everything else. And then my next three spots on my list, I was kind of fighting out for who would be there. And I think the order I put them in is kind of the order I enjoyed them in. I enjoyed, Sammy and Kevin Owens winning and Rhea Ripley winning. Those were head and shoulders above everything else I was looking forward to. They delivered, but then Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes, that turned out to be a good match. I enjoyed it.
That was
I wanted to see it, and it worked for me. And the IC match I was pleasantly surprised by the IC match. And Bianca Blair and Asuka was fantastic. So the only thing I would have changed about my match, as far as giving them a final ranking of how they actually turned out, is maybe I move Bianca and Asuka up to 3, because for me, 3, 4, and 5 were real close when I was making the list. So maybe that flips around. It becomes Asuka, Bianca, then the IC match, and then Roman Cody at 5. But basically, my 1 and 2 were head and shoulders above everybody else, and from what I saw, they turned out that way. And then my 3, 4, and 5 were kind of interchangeable, but clearly above the rest of the card, and they also turned out that way. So the 5 matches I wanted to see the most were the 5 matches that I enjoyed the most, and pretty much in the order, at least in the tiers that I had them. But that's me as a wrestling fan, though. That's not to say that objectively they're better. It's just, the things I was looking for, WrestleMania delivered for me as a fan. So John, your turn. Your list going down. Were the things that you were most looking forward to seeing the matches that delivered the most for you? I mean, was there anything off your list that you would have that wound up surprising you in a good way? Was there anything on your list that surprised you to the downside?
You know, I pretty much. Sorry, I'm getting a call. I pretty much liked every of my top 5 matches.
Good.
The number one I might have actually liked a little bit more than most people because it's gotten us some flack, and there was a lot of interference. But I just like Roman Reigns, so I was like, yes, he won. And maybe I'm a little bitter as an AEW fan that Cody just kind of had a falling out and left, and then he goes to WWE and he's like, and the whole thing is like, oh, you're back home now, and like, oh, you're back where you belong, and all these things. It's like he was doing such cool stuff in New Japan, NWA, AEW.
Yes.
He did such that, which has escalated him obviously to the level where he's at now. When he was just a mid card guy before, and now he's got the theme song everybody's singing, and he's doing that gimmick. This isn't because, oh, we're so happy you came back to WWE. It's like, no, he was really hot, and they scooped him up. So I'm happy with that. I'm happy with my number one. Maybe
Your number 2.
Yeah.
2 was the IC match. Did you like? Was that still high on your list? After seeing it,
I don't think I would revise it. The IC match, I wouldn't change. The Ray versus Dom, which I ranked way high. Probably not as good of a wrestling match per se, but the entrances alone, I was over the moon for. I might have even moved that up a little bit because I was just like, this is so great with Dom coming out with the handcuffs, and he's like a hardened criminal. I was like, this is the best entrance I've ever seen. So that alone was like, man, perfect. And Rey Mysterio going over and having a big moment at WrestleMania was really cool. You know what one I really could move up, and I put them way deep, was Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley. I had them at 5.
They were on your list, but 5 is not a bad spot out of 13 matches on a card. Did that deliver on the high side for you?
Oh, big time. I would say that, I almost like that match better than the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and
so you would have flipped 4 and 5 then?
Yeah, maybe 4 and 5 I would have flipped.
Okay.
And I just have and again, this is as a fan, and I get it, but I just had I was loving that storyline. I thought it was hilarious, and they got me in the funny bone, and it got me. I thought the match was technically good, and just
the Mysterio's one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, not a bad match. Not a bad match. And that's good though that each of us as fans were looking forward to things, and they basically delivered. Anything surprise you on the high side that you did not have on your list, but you want to mention now?
So one of them I didn't have on my list that surprised me was that men's 4-way that match with all the
tag team showcase.
The tag
Agreed. Yeah. I enjoyed that.
that match was I thought that was going to be down there with the women's showcase, which
Mhm.
was a real clunker. Um, on your point, well, honestly, would surprise me was you can make a really strong case that Flair versus Rhea was the best. If you would say that was the best match of the weekend, you could probably make an argument for it.
I
Rhea,
will make that argument.
yeah.
I had them as 1 and 1A when I was looking forward to them. I
Mhm.
think that was a better match than the Usos versus Sammy and Kevin Owens, but because the Usos versus Sammy and KO had such a storyline build and just everything that went into putting together that whole months long journey we've been on. I that just added to what it was. But yeah, I think Charlotte Rhea was by a hair the best in ring work we saw.
Okay.
And what does that say about the women's division? This is not the era of divas where Vince Russo sending them out there in lingerie. Like
um,
holy mackerel, these women can wrestle.
you know what? It's funny because you had Belair and Asuka on your list, and that will. I mean, you're talking about the who had the best singles matches on both nights, and you could probably go 2 and 3. Could be uh, Belair and Asuka, and then you have Charlotte and Rhea as single matches.
Yep.
I like both those matches more than I like Rollins versus Logan. I like that more than boy.
Hell in the Cell, Brock
The Hell in
versus
a Cell.
Omos.
Yeah, yeah, yes, and yes. So you
Better
can,
than the other title match with Austin Theory and John Cena.
yeah. Theory and Cena was okay. It wasn't anything great. It's just okay. I
Mhm.
mean, those two championship matches, and I hate that they split the title like that. But then you look and you're like, man, they got the talent to split the title. They really do.
That's a case where I like that they split the title because there's no second tier women's belt.
Yeah.
So the fact that in the men's division, you've got the U.S. Championship and the Intercontinental Championship. So there is a belt that's on each of the free TV programs, Raw and SmackDown. Like the U.S. belt essentially becomes the SmackDown Men's Championship, and the
Yeah.
IC belt is the Raw, and the IC belt essentially becomes the SmackDown Men's Championship.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the two belts serve that purpose for with the women. I think I think it's great that every now and then we do see title matches on TV because it's split up as a Raw and a SmackDown women's belt. And they did. You're right. They found two worthy champions. So with perhaps the sparsity of tag team tag teams on the women's side, they do have enough singles competitors where it's it's fantastic
Yeah.
going for the belts, and they can support two belts.
It's and I know we're kind of running over and we're talking about stuff here. We're not even at the Italian goodbye. But
No,
one thing I
we're
would like
critiquing ourselves.
one, yeah, we are critiquing ourselves. One thing it's a little goofy that they did with that could have given the women's four-way match a little bit of an escalation is put the tag belts up for this match. So you have a champion and a belt and a reason that they're wrestling. Because
Mhm.
the tag champs now were involved in a triple threat or a 3-on-3
Six-woman tag. Yep.
woman tag, and the belts are just there, but they didn't mean anything. So you're just like, I don't know. And that's interesting. Lita, is she one of the tag champs?
It's Becky Lynch and Lita.
She's. I actually rewatched parts of that match. She's up there. She moving too great in the ring.
No, and I think I said that to you on when we reviewed the Saturday portion, is that when Damage Control and Becky Lynch, any combination of them are in the ring, fast, quick striking, quick sequences, reversals if there are. And then Lita gets in the ring and it's slower, and Trish gets in the ring and it's slower. But Becky Lynch and the three from Damage Control, yeah, they can go as well. It's a strong women's division in WWE. If you're looking at singles competitors, maybe they just need to commit and really build a tag team division, or just not have those belts.
Yeah. With Lita, it could be one of these things where she's doing these moves that she did when she was 25. and she hasn't adjusted her game because she was doing a lot of high spots and still doing them. It's like, man, you might need to do some rest holds there and some old wrestling, and go
become a grappler and a submission, wrestler instead of, whatever variation of flying head scissors that you keep trying to do.
Yeah, right. She did something where she tried to jump off the ropes and do something, and she kind of botched it all up, and it's like, oh no, it's not there.
Yeah.
It's okay. Father Time catches up to us all, but we got to adjust
Right.
our styles. Just do a lot of chops. Just get really good at the chops like Gunther.
Right. Just chop people, but
in the throat. All right, so Dom, I did have one more thing before the Italian goodbye.
Sure.
This just got swept completely under the rug after WrestleMania. And it is the sale of the WWE, which we have made several shorts, several videos about what we thought was going to happen, what could potentially happen. Seems to be official. I watched an interview with Vince McMahon, and I forget the other guy, the CEO of the company, but I watched an interview with them. It looks like McMahon is going to he's back. He's not like he's going to be the executive chairman for the next 2 years. He has a contract with Endeavor, or this new company that the UFC and the WWE are creating. I think this has been covered by a lot of people on the YouTube internet. So I don't think I'm going to make a video about this, but I am kind of curious. You think Vince McMahon back in the saddle and creative is going to be something we won't notice? He was always there, or it could bring the product back down, or do you think he has other stuff going on?
That's a good question. I think this is a good move in the sense that business-wise, it seems to be a good move. Creatively, I don't think it hurts the product. I mean, it's, they always say like a manager in baseball doesn't really win you any games, but the manager could lose you games if they're really bad at what they're doing. I don't know that the business side is going to make the WWE in-ring product better, but it could make it worse if they start becoming too gun shy about things because of the office, or if contract disputes with the wrestlers and TV deals breaking down somehow lead to having to change storylines around and change main events and change big events that are coming up as far as pay-per-views or house shows or TV content. So I think the fact that it's a merger happening, so it's not a buyer coming in who's going to take the company private and make it into their own private company. It's the second thing that we talked about less often, which was what happens if a publicly traded company wants to buy the WWE and basically do a merger and acquisition. That's the scenario that wound up playing out. So the WWE is still a publicly traded company. The company that bought them understands putting on live events. Endeavor owns UFC.
Yeah.
And the from what I was reading, let's see if I can get some of the details of this. There's someone who had the Endeavor Holdings Group CEO, I think, will become CEO of this new
mega company.
Mega company. Will be the CEO and will continue his role as Endeavor's chief executive officer. Vince McMahon is now the executive chairman of the board. Mark Shapiro is the new president and chief operating officer of both Endeavor and the new company. And I think each of the separate brands, UFC and WWE, has a president. Like Dana White and I think Nick Khan are now sort of colleagues in the hierarchy of the new company. Like what Dana White is to UFC, I think Nick Khan is to WWE and the corporate structure now.
That's wild. So is Vince above Dana?
In a sense, yeah, he's chairman of the board of the whole combined company.
Yeah. Okay, Vince made out there. I wonder if
I mean, he was supposed to be CEO and chairman of the whole company of Titan Sports as
Yeah.
well. So he was always, a big shot there. But yeah, it's Vince did make out.
Yeah.
I think the stock valuation for each company was the new company's worth 21 billion. They're saying about 12 for the Endeavor side of it as it was previously, and the WWE at about 9.3. WWE stock, to the extent that it's still trading before the merger goes through, is up close to $100 a share. So the public, people trading publicly, thought this was good news.
Yeah. There's fairly obvious things too, high level, that are good. The Saudis didn't buy them,
Right?
which is really good. Um, that would have been a disaster and pretty much the end of the WWE as you know it. I think that this has actually got some potential. But bottom line is Vince is back in charge. So get ready for some long promos that are scripted. And get ready for
In
Michael
some
Cole.
capacity, yes. Yeah, I haven't we been seeing some things that over the course of the past few months we've been noting this looks like a Vince thing, this looks like a
This is
Vince
a
thing.
Vince thing. This is a Vince thing. And now it's like, oh yeah, this is all Vince. He's back, baby. So we knew there was rumblings because he went away just for a couple months, and then he canceled himself, and he came back stronger than ever.
Came back stronger than ever, and really negotiating this merger and acquisition tells me really stronger than ever.
You know, he owns all his own rights. So like he owns all of his like legacy essentially with WWE.
Well, good.
Um, and then well, he won't let the other wrestlers own their rights. That's what the joke was. Like he fights tooth and because people always want to own their own stuff. Like Cody Rhodes left WWE and then he was Cody. Because
Mhm.
WWE owned Cody Rhodes the name. So
And I wonder what the new company will do for things like that. Because in UFC, competitors typically um, compete under their given name, their legal name. Like Conor McGregor is his real name.
mm,
You know, that's his real legal name. He can do business under his own name no matter what he's doing anywhere. So I wonder if that will affect people contracted under WWE's side of the umbrella.
oh well, they let them have their names. Give them the right the names back because that's just the company policy.
Yeah, yeah.
Or it goes the other way around, and Vince is like, "Hey, pal, that's my name," and he steals their names and likeness.
And I wonder if it's going forward things will be different. That's another thing to talk about. At least to keep an eye on what things will be different from now on. Could it be the way that talent is treated as far as ownership of their likeness and names for marketing, for merchandising, for doing things outside of the new parent company?
Yeah, you
Um,
almost feel like they're gonna lean on Vince a little bit for production value, um, and how that's done because they maybe those packages they make are usually pretty impressive, or they can be, so they could utilize Vince for that on the UFC side. And
yes.
let's face it, the UFC's as time goes on, it's more and more pro wrestling. They have these fake blow ups at the press conferences, and they're like, "No, no, I'm gonna get you. No, no, I'm gonna get you." But
They're cutting more promos.
they're cutting promos and they're staged. The
Yep.
fights aren't staged, but the rivalry is staged. So
Yep.
you get, they're gonna keep doing that, and you ultimately hope. I hope they don't bring these washed up UFC guys into the WWE, which I feel like that's probably going to happen though. Like
Cross promotions between the brands. Yeah, maybe.
DC is a guy who probably would do pretty good, but a lot of MMA guys are terrible. So hopefully the guys they bring over are good.
Ken Shamrock was good, right? Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley can go between the two sports, for
To
lack of a better term to use for
be
each of them.
fair, Brock was a good wrestler, then was a good MMA fighter.
Yep.
So that worked for him. Yeah, maybe. Who's this guy? Shoosh. He's an Olympic champ. He's an Olympic wrestler. Maybe they'll say, "Hey, man,
Chad Gable and Otis. Yeah.
hey, Chad, how about you start training, man? You won an Olympic gold. You could probably do some stuff in the UFC."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, you stop doing the shoe stuff too.
Yeah. Some of the things I'm seeing for something even as simple as over at Yahoo Finance is that this may unlock areas of significant potential, like media rights renewals at both companies. Um, Maybe they can do some combined media deals, uh, or at least just have the extra cloud of a much bigger company, a much more not much more diverse company, but a slightly more diverse company for each of them.
Yeah.
Um,
And maybe it monitors.
Sponsorship and licensing, cross promotional opportunities, including use of UFC athletes at WWE events, maybe even vice versa, improved event operations, and then they mentioned one that's probably the most iffy is upside potential from sports betting at WWE. That one's going to get iffy. I don't think merging with UFC makes that any less iffy.
Yes. That's going to be tough to pull off. I do have to say, though, I would have gotten killed if I bet in WrestleMania this year because I had Cody Rhodes going over. I had Gunther
Okay.
Lewis in. Yeah, they were swerving me left and right.
Yeah. But
So
an enjoyable show, but because you weren't betting any money on it, an enjoyable show to watch.
yeah, no,
WrestleMania delivers for you.
yeah, WrestleMania overall was good. Just one more thing about the Endeavor thing.
Mm.
Interesting that it's sold. Um, and maybe there's a bit of a regulator on Vince now, even though he is the guy in charge. He's still got a boss to answer to. So
Yeah.
if something's going wrong and it's not going right, they said if there's an idea they don't agree on, then we don't do the idea. That's what their plan is. But like, if
Okay.
there is an idea, maybe something's going awry, and the Endeavor folks are just like, yeah, hey, you can't do this, Vince. Then he's going to have to listen to him because he works for them. You know.
That's a good point that now Vince has somebody not just answering to shareholders or answering to public opinion. He answers to somebody within his company structure now.
Yeah, hey, stop calling it sports entertainment. It's wrestling. He's going to have to do it. You know.
Right.
Before he
And
was the king, and he
they
was.
should have been able to do this. I think I brought that up when we talked about our Saturday thing that if you can't say wrestling or wrestler at WrestleMania, then when can you say it? It's in the doggone name.
Right.
Welcome to Sports Entertainment Mania 39, live from Hollywood. No, it's WrestleMania. Let's start saying wrestler, wrestling, pro wrestling, professional wrestling. Gunther is a world-class professional wrestler. Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley was a classic pro wrestling match.
Mhm. All right, Dom. Well, we went a little extra long here. We had a lot to recap.
Yeah.
And we had some good conversations here about the purchase. We think actually not such a terrible scenario. It could be a good thing. Hopefully Vince doesn't do anything too stupid with the creative side. Fingers crossed. And then, ultimately we talked a little bit about Andy Kaufman and the entire show. So we make some short clips based off of that. It's been a long weekend, folks. We got this one out late. We want to thank you very much for coming along with us this entire time. For this whole week has been a lot with the 24-hour streams we put out there. We made our top 5 matches we want to see, and we went through that. Dom, great job with the website. And we chopped each little match up to a shorter clip. So if you want to go check those out, check them out. On the horizon, though, we're going to keep doing our thing. We'll be watching SmackDown, reacting to it, and just making shorter videos. I think we're going to move away from the shorts, but they could come back at some other time. But we'll probably move away from the shorts. But we're going to be creating short videos. So, Dom, hey, man, thanks so much. Crazy weekend. We had to sum it up on a Wednesday, but looking forward to talking with you. Don't Bury the Lead on will not be on Friday night. We'll be meeting up on Saturday and recapping SmackDown. So we're going to keep the ball rolling with our SmackDown stuff. Tom, anything you want to say before we drop off here?
What a weekend of pro wrestling at WrestleMania.
You could say it, not sports entertainment mania.
Right? WrestleMania. As a wrestling fan, I got enough that made me enjoy the product these 2 days of the double day WrestleMania premium live event. I saw a lot of good pro wrestling. Not everything was good pro wrestling, but I saw enough good pro wrestling.
And on that note, Dom, thank you so much. Thank you all for joining. Have a great evening.